Hello. So today I'm super excited about something new that I'm starting. I recently got this sketchbook here and I bought it at Michael's. It was on sale. I think I got it for around $20 Canadian. And it is watercolor paper. And it's, as you can see, a fairly large format. Now the paper in it is pretty nice. It has a really nice smooth surface on the one side, and then the other side has a more textured surface. But I've been trying to figure out what exactly I want to use this for. What I do want to do is a series of paintings that are much looser, more fun, more impressionistic in style. And so I think I'm going to reserve it for this because it's decent, heavy watercolor paper. I'm super excited, so let's get going. So I decided that I'm going to use some of the photos from the trip across Canada that my daughter and I recently took. There's some beautiful photos that we have from our trip from Ontario, driving all the way across to BC. I think it would be really amazing to paint some of them and loosen up with some of my paintings. So I've decided to do 8 thumbnail paintings from our trip, and I chose to do them as quick thumbnails so that I could do little studies to decide which paintings I might later want to do as a larger, looser painting as well, and also to help me loosen up, which is really great practice when you just want to do some loose artwork and feel a little bit more free about it. So this was one of the initial photos from our trip in Northern Ontario, I think. And then the next day, this is 2:58 a.m. in the morning, we actually had to get up really early to beat a winter storm in April that was going to hit the Thunder Bay area. I decided to paint this beautiful scene with the rocks in Northern Ontario, overlooking the lake and the trees, and the foreboding clouds in the distance making their way towards us. I thought it was just a really beautiful composition again. So I'm doing this little study to try and capture the feeling of the moment as we drove through there. So we're still on our way trying to beat the snowstorm, and it was really pretty. There were these beautiful rock formations with frozen rivers, just gorgeous. But we made it in time, so that was quite lucky, but the snowstorm hit and it was quite a snowstorm. So we ended up waiting it out that night in the hotel and didn't start out again until the next morning. For this next little painting, I decided I really wanted to paint these rocks. I just love the colors. It's really pretty. I wasn't too sure how it was going to turn out because the photo is just face on of this rock face, but I really wanted to try and capture it loosely still, so it was a little bit of a challenge, but working small helps me to work looser, which is another reason that I did the thumbnail sketches. So if you're also trying to work looser, I suggest trying to work a little bit smaller like this with a larger brush, and that's the reason I'm using this larger brush as well. So it's helping quite a bit, although it's always tempting to get, more and more details in there. But I really enjoyed this one, and finding all of the different colors to use, painting the frozen waterfalls and the trees at the top, and I enjoyed this one a lot. This might be one maybe that I do as a larger version. We'll see when it gets to it a little later. So here we are in Kenora, and there was this beautiful trail that we went on. It was so pretty. The train went by. The light was just perfect. It was golden hour. We really enjoyed it. So I've decided to take a still from one of the videos of the path with the white pine and the lake and the golden hour light. It's so pretty. And do that as my thumbnail. One of the things about this as well that I think is really good for practice is doing as many different versions as you can. And that's also why it's helpful to do these different thumbnails. The more you do, the more practice you get and the better you get at it, and figure out, how you want to actually paint, how you want to use the paints you're using. Here I'm using gouache. I'm using a jelly gouache actually, and it's fine, especially just for these rough paintings. I'm using a larger acrylic paintbrush just to help me stay loose. And again, the paper is a watercolor paper, so I know that it's nice and solid, and it's going to take, as much or as little water as I want to apply with the gouache. So that's been really great as well, because sometimes I'm using more water for a wash for the background, and other times I'm using more paint to build it up and make a little thicker paint, and maybe build up the colors as well as I'm going along with it. So for this painting, we went through Saskatchewan, and there were these really cool greeneries. So I want to combine two different paintings. This one here for the background and the landscape, because it's so pretty and the colors are nice, and I love the composition of it as well, with the green barn as well. Here I'm just laying down a bit of a wash, and then I'm drawing out the building with the tip of my brush here to get a little bit of a point, because I want to make sure that I get the right perspective with this. I could have done it looser and just done brush marks to make the shape of the building, and maybe I would do that again another time. But for this, it was really important to get the perspective right and the building right on it, so I opted to do a little bit more of a fine sort of outline initially, and then add the thicker brush strokes in as I was going along to give the shadows and highlights on the buildings and show some dimension as well. I used a very thin brush for the hydro lines, which is really great.
Get fooled by anyone so easily. I'm lost. You say it's time.
So I decided to paint this beautiful scene from Alberta of the mountains. I'm really excited for it. It was so pretty. For this one, I'm putting in some thicker paint and just roughing in the shapes of the mountains, laying in basic colors, and just using the edge of the brush to paint the trees and give some of the dimension and texture of the trees. I'm now adding the white snow caps on the mountains to bring out the mountains and actually make them look like mountains and not just hills in the distance.
I guess I'll be walking home in the rain. I lost you, but then you were mine again. Just like the wind and the fire. Wind and the fire.
That's cool.
Never thought about that. It's your own fault.
That's cool.
It's like a giant bounce card. It is. It's like highlighting that.
Yeah, that's cool. It is too. It's really pretty, the colors.
Wave to the camera.
So from our stop in Lake Louise, I just had to do the Whiskey Jack. They're so pretty and it's so fun that they'll land on you for food. It wasn't really one of the types of paintings that I wanted to do for these because it's closer up and I wanted to sort of do everything that was a little bit farther away so that I could keep it loose. But still, it was fun to do this. A little bit of a tricky painting just because of the snow in the background and the bird itself. Trying to paint as loosely as I could, but also kind of capture some detail. Also, the perspective on my hand was very, very foreshortened, so I had to kind of make that work out so it looked proper too. Driving through the mountains in Canada is just so incredibly beautiful and such an amazing, amazing experience. And the CP rail, the Canadian Pacific Rail and trains, are just such an iconic symbol of Canada and Canada's West that I really wanted to paint it. We kept seeing the trains all across our drive, so I wanted to do a painting of them with the mountains and the valley and, you know, just really capture part of what makes Canada, Canada. This again is just a very loose painting, just to capture it and see if I like the composition really, which I do really love. I also like to exaggerate some of the colors that I see in some of these paintings, so you might notice that I've pulled out some colors that were either really, really subtle or that were not quite there, but almost there. So like the purple and the blue, and there's oranges in some of the other paintings that I really like to just exaggerate and pull out. It really makes for a much more colorful and vibrant painting. Helps to really define the different spaces, elements, and textures in your paintings as well.